Hello, everyone. My name is Jay. Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Jay. We are building a hub here for healing, transformation, and personal spiritual development. And I have this wonderful job where I get to speak to people from all walks of life and all around the world, which you'll find out in a minute why I'm saying that. People who I feel have great insight and wisdom to share with you to help you with your healing journey, to help you with your self-betterment and with your conscious evolution. And I have on the show today the one and only Miss Vanessa Naumann from Berlin. Welcome, Vanessa.
Thank you for having me, Jay. Hello.
Hey, you're very welcome. Thanks for being here. So I spotted Vanessa on YouTube and I feel like I know Vanessa quite well for some reason, like she's an old friend. And I spotted her on YouTube and was just like, hey, she's saying a lot of the same stuff that I say in her own way. And I just I just really liked your vibe, Vanessa, and it looks like you're doing a lot of good work out there. Vanessa's a somatic therapist, a healer, and a sound artist as well. And just has a great passion for raising people up and helping people find fulfillment in their life. So that's great. And I'm super interested to find out a bit more about what makes you tick.
Yeah, sounds great. And I also feel like familiar with you.
Yeah,
Sometimes you cannot tell why, you feel connected to someone, and it's just maybe, the energy knows. So I like to
yeah.
say so.
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, there was that connection there. So I'm super grateful that you're here, Vanessa. And for those of people out there that don't know, what is somatic healing? We'll just start with that. Can you
Mm,
explain what that actually is and what that entails?
sure, absolutely. So somatic healing is something that I came across in my own journey of growth, of healing. And it is something that is basically body-based
Hmm.
methods, techniques. So, there's a broad spectrum that could be categorized as somatic. And somatic is a Greek word, and it actually comes from the idea of physical healing.
Uh-huh.
So,
Okay.
body-based healing. But it's not just, getting a massage could be clustered as somatic healing, but it's more, I want to integrate also the psyche into it and energy. So it
Hmm.
is kind of our body is our vessel, and our body also embodies a part of our soul, right? So
Hmm.
we have access through our body to various parts of our whole system, I want to call it generally for now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in our body, we store emotions, we store energy, and sometimes energy gets trapped, as you know from your own work as well. So sometimes it's not enough to just read about a concept, right? Like now out there, everybody's starting to get into, the concepts of consciousness and inner child healing and all these categories. And yet, if it stays only up here in the logical mind, you're still wondering, why is this pattern still with me? Why can I not let this go? And it is because there's still energy and like an emotional charge trapped in the body. So we always
Hmm.
need to take the body into account in order to fully release, yeah, an emotional charge, a trauma, a body memory. Yeah.
Sure, sure. So part of your role then is helping people to get in touch with that stuff, the unresolved stuff that they've stored in their body, and to help them release that and move it through.
Yeah, that's for sure. Like, often I see clients, and also for me, I know that we like to jump into the head when we're feeling unsafe or
Hmm.
afraid or angry, right? Like we cut ourselves off and we don't even notice it. And as we are then just located here, right? All the thinking of, oh my God, that person, or what am I going to do? Oh my God, I'm so afraid. Let me, do something to numb myself or whatever. But can we stay in the body and feel it all? Because when we are brave enough, and that takes time, right? Like I train people to stay in the body and connect to their emotions that are located in the body. And that is what people are afraid of most,
Yeah.
because they feel like if I feel that, I'm going to die. There's this feeling of, there's literally this feeling of, oh my God, I cannot feel it. My heart is going to burst or whatever, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I train people to acclimate to the sensations of emotions, if that makes sense.
It does. And what wonderful work, Vanessa, because in the world that we live in now, so many people are so disconnected from the physical and just disconnected from their self. And yeah, a lot of people are spending so much time in their head, especially in the West as well, where it's
Mm.
encouraged to think about everything all the time. And I feel that very much in this modern day and age, it's discouraged in many ways to feel. It's like we've disconnected
Yeah.
from our feelings. It's more encouraged. No, think about it, think about it. But like you said there,
Mhm.
it's like people are up here and what about what's going on here? So people aren't really fully embodied, therefore they're not
Mhm.
present and grounded and all of that stuff, which is talked about so much in so many teachings about the importance of being present and grounded.
Mhm.
And it's just
Yeah.
interesting when you said helping people stay, because I spoke to a lady last night on the show about
Mm.
child sexual abuse and healing from that. And she was saying that the biggest thing, the biggest challenge, but the biggest skill that she's learned is to stay when those traumatic
Mhm.
feelings are coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the
Yeah.
toughest part. Absolutely. And especially with the topic like child abuse, sexual child abuse, it's must be so hard to stay in the body and let yourself experience that. Must be connected to so much pain, darkness. I gladly did not have this experience, but I went through a series of panic attacks and anxiety, and that made
Yeah.
me feel like I feel like I'm gonna die, like
Uh-huh.
literally. And I
Yeah.
think you cannot relate to that when you haven't experienced that. Probably the same like with, child abuse. So I felt like a lot alone with this because none of my friends had ever experienced that. And so I was like, it doesn't help me to explain that to you because you cannot grasp what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I kind of like had to lead myself. Thankfully, I already knew these techniques, so I had to lead myself through that, which was sometimes really lonely. And that's why I also feel like, how many people out there feel this way and they don't even know it's panic attacks. They think,
Yeah.
how many people are now going to the doctor because they have heart palpitations and all that. But the doctor says, actually, you're fine. But they feel like going crazy
Yeah.
because they don't feel fine. And so
Yeah.
that's why a big, big part of my like devotion is to people who feel like they're not fine, even if like the clinical sheet
Yep.
says you're okay.
Yeah.
And I want them not to feel like they're going crazy because often it's just trapped energy in the body that needs to get released.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of that kind of stuff is overlooked in the medical system.
Mm.
Absolutely. Wonderful work. So I just want to touch on something you said there with your anxiety attacks or your panic attacks. Was that the catalyst for you to get in the work? Although I heard you say you already knew the techniques, so you were
Mhm.
already were you knew the somatic techniques for yourself, or you were you working with people already when the
I
panic
was
attacks were
already
happening?
working with people. Yeah. So
Right, right.
I think I started working with people in 2018, which is not that long ago actually. But I was going through a series of, my own spiritual awakening.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a very specific moment where I felt like, oh, I need to change something in my life. And in that moment, I also started, all right, like, how am I going to change stuff? And that's when I began to like I went to Bali, a typical thing,
Mm-hmm.
to go to a retreat. And in that retreat there was a woman with a bowl. So that's
Mm-hmm.
how I got into sound healing first thing. And through doing that for myself, I feel like that opened up my consciousness. And I cried so much. Every morning I would play the bowls and I just released so much. But that was like the sweet and soft stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
That was all like rainbows and butterflies, and I was on the top of the world, and I was like, oh my god, I know now who I am, and I found myself. And then I fell into like a really dark
Uh-huh.
time,
Yep,
which I guess we could call like the dark night of the soul,
sure,
which
sure.
came through. I overdid it. I can be a person of extremes, And I feel like I overdid the whole, oh my God, let's go deeper, let's dig deeper. And I booked my third sitting in ayahuasca. And in that sitting, I feel like something happened where maybe also from the environment, I didn't feel safe enough or held enough to process whatever was coming up. And after that, I realized the next day I felt too open. And that was the
Sure.
whole start of my panic attacks and anxiety.
Yeah.
Although I realize now that lived in me before due to my
Yep.
childhood experiences. So I guess it just was catapulted up. There was no more filter, it was just on the surface. And I was like, what is happening? So
Yeah.
thankfully, I already knew the techniques, but it was still very hard to
Yeah.
process on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so much in what you just shared there that I'd like to speak on. The first thing that came is there's just so much. It's so important to be aware about boundaries and psychic protection, and
Mhm.
because you can open up to things when you're just not quite ready, and all of that. So we work a lot with that, Vanessa, and the work that we're doing is teaching people
Yeah.
energetic boundaries, psychic protection, and letting people know that they, with their free will, they have the right and they can choose
Mhm.
what energy frequencies they let into their system and their field.
Yeah.
Because it can be messy out there. And like you said, if it's
Mhm.
not a safe environment and and you're in that open space, then anything can come in. And it sounds like,
Yeah.
I love the self-awareness there of that stuff already lived within me, so I just brought it up. And lucky you had the techniques to manage that. Not everybody would though, and it can, that
Mm.
could sink people, that sort of darkness and could send them mad.
Yeah. Absolutely. I felt like, and I'm glad that you're teaching this to people because I had to learn it like the hard way. I thought I already know my stuff, but universe, God, source, however we want to call it, humbled me gladly. Like now like after I passed this time, now I feel like, okay, this needed to happen for
Mm-hmm.
the soul that I am. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm an Aries. I'm with the head through the wall. Like I don't seem like that often, but I calmed down. But
Yeah.
I had to physically experience my limits to
Yeah, yeah,
realize where my limits are. And that
yeah.
was a very, very, very hard lesson, but I
Uh-huh.
needed it because that also taught me to take clients, like to titrate with clients, and to not take them over their
Mm.
boundaries
Mm-hmm.
and to work with them very carefully because
Mm.
now you can go everywhere and do ayahuasca or whatever psychedelics or even breath work. You can overdo it, and
Yeah,
I learned that people need to work within their nervous system and not outside of it
yeah,
because we're already overstimulated. So we want to bring them back into the peace and the safety and not push even more. And I pushed myself, like I feel like I fried my nervous system. And it
mm.
took quite a while for me to, like you said, I think people can get psychosis from that.
Yes,
And I had a
absolutely.
few
Yeah,
moments where I actually felt like, is this still safe to do by myself? But
yeah,
I made it through, and I every time like I asked for help, and even if friends didn't understand me, it kind of like I could even tell them and say like, you're not going to get this right now, but can you just make sure your phone is on at night in case, I get a
yeah.
panic attack or something. So it for everybody out there, I just want you to know, go slow.
Hmm.
Yeah, you don't have to run. This is a marathon. We're going slow. You don't, it's not, we're not arriving anywhere. So,
Yeah, great points. And that feels like it was a pretty dark and scary touch and go time for you, Vanessa.
mhm. Yeah, it was. I wouldn't wish this on my worst. I don't have enemies, but
Mm.
I wouldn't wish this on anybody. So yeah, that was
Yeah,
pretty hard.
I feel like the And what's come out of that is I heard you say being really careful with your clients. And I feel like that's a really important point to bring here because as facilitators, we have a responsibility. When someone's coming to us for healing or for coaching, mentoring, whatever it is, we have a responsibility to look after that person's heart and
Yeah.
to do the right thing by them and their evolution. And also it feels important to point out that we're responsible as well for feelings evoked and experiences evoked in
Mhm.
those people. There's karma associated with that as well. So, I mean, wisdom tells me to be gentle and before I do any
Mhm.
work, it's always thy will and for the highest and best good of all concerned and all of that stuff.
Mhm.
So really nice to hear you sharing that, Vanessa. Even though it was born out of quite a dark experience, it feels like through that more empathy was born for
Mhm.
clients and more of a wisdom of how you want to work with them.
Absolutely. And I love the way that you also approach the work. And I do that too. Before I go in any session, I always ask for the highest good. And definitely, I anyway realize that everybody has their own tempo and their own timing. And and just because we are practitioners, we don't know best for them,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you know, like
yeah.
like I approach my clients always with this, what do you need? What do you want to do? And then I just ask questions and lead them through to the emotions and to the opening and just reassure them. And that's all the work. Because I feel like, like everybody heals themselves, but sometimes we just need somebody who holds our shoulder or our hand.
Mm.
That's why I also work a lot online with somatics, because people feel like, yeah, but don't you need to touch the body? And I always say, like, no, it's about you touching your emotions, your body, the sensations. It's not about me. It's about you and yourself with all the parts of you. So that's why it doesn't matter if I'm here or in Australia, or wherever anybody is in the world. It's really about more asking questions and listening, and then just giving cues rather than, you should do that. No,
Hmm.
like that's
Yeah,
like a big thing I've learned.
that's awesome, Vanessa. And there's a real,
Mm.
I sense a humility in that. Like it's not all about me. I'm the healer. I know it all and
No.
do what I say. It's yeah, and that's out there. There's a lot of that out there, but
Mhm.
that can get people into trouble. So that's lovely to
Mhm.
hear that you're working in that way.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm sure you work in that way too. No?
Yeah, well, it is. It's about nurturing the client's growth, and for me, that there's a deep responsibility in that I take really
Mhm.
seriously about,
Mhm.
okay, they're coming to me for guidance or whatever it is. It's like, how can I best serve this person? And that's just not something that I take lightly, and I feel that a lot of people do. They start having a bit of awakening or whatever and hang their shingle out. But hanging your shingle out, saying you're a healer or you're a mentor or a coach or whatever it is, again, I've said it a million times already that it just comes with great responsibility, and we really
Yeah.
need to genuinely care for our client's heart and what's best for them. And exactly what you said, everybody's got their own tempo. I like to move fast as well, Vanessa, and
Mhm.
I'm quite an extremist as well, and I've had some bumpy experiences with that have humbled me as well. Like,
Mhm.
okay, let's do it at the pace that's best for me. And yeah, and also I know that not everybody works like that. Some people just they need to go slow, and some people do
Mhm.
want to go a bit quicker. So yeah, and I guess setting up sessions like we briefly touched on there, highest and best good of all concerned, and really getting out of the way for that and being in tune with that
Mhm.
is a really helpful technique to work with.
Yeah, I totally agree. I like what you just said, like getting out of the way, you know?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
this is huge.
Vessel.
Even for people who are, I even want to say, for people who are not practitioners. Like whatever you're creating in the world, whoever you are, like sometimes it's about your mind or your ego getting out of the way so that the stream of miracles, consciousness, however we want to call it, can flow through you and allow you to really bring into the world what you're here for and not what you think you should do. because sometimes your mind can get in the way and make you feel like I should do it like this. No, but when you let God flow through you, and I'm sorry if that word, triggers anybody.
You say
If
God
you let
here.
God
Yeah.
or universe flow through you, like it's just incredible what can happen. So I always like to teach people also, and that has a lot to do with letting go of control, which we don't like, no, which already feels scary. So just a tiny example from a session with a client. She's incredible, and she is building something really beautiful in the world. And in a session, she was like, "Oh my God, this and this is happening." And just from her body language and her talking, I felt like, all right, you're afraid to let go of control. So we went into a state where we could connect to that fear of letting go of control. And I always ask in every step, like, where are you now? What's present? And she said, I feel like I'm hanging by a thread and under me is the void. And I ask her, okay, would it feel safe to imagine to take my hand and let go of the thread? And she was like, okay, let me breathe. I need another minute. Okay, let's do it. And then, she imagined we together went into the void and she was falling, and I allowed her, I asked her, take a deep breath. Can you allow the falling? Can you enjoy the falling? And it
Mhm.
got better and better and better, because it's always, anybody who ever did bungee jumping or anything like that, you take a leap and the leap is hard. But once you're in it, you're like, that wasn't so hard, right? So it's
Yeah.
just the fear
Yeah.
of what could happen. It's not even the fear of it happening yet, right? So
Great
yeah, just a little
example.
example.
Yeah. I love that. It's the fear of the fear. It's like, yeah, it's just the leap.
Hmm.
Once you've done it, it's like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like we could nearly wrap up on that whole getting out of the way. That's like a mic drop. That's such a
Mm.
huge component to this work, is learning to get out of the way so that, your higher self and that knowing can come through. And yeah, absolutely. The mind, where we come from here, Vanessa, is that the mind is, part of the lower bodies that's only been around for as long as Jay or Vanessa has been, as part of the ego, the personality, which returns to the earth. But that you're connected to, that's the eternal aspect, the divine aspect. That's where, the truth of who you are. So it is that practice of getting out of the way. And the mind doesn't know, the
Mm.
mind doesn't know anything above itself, and it's only
Hmm.
been around for however long, however old you are. But
Mm.
yeah, it's like, the little guru in our head that we like to consult, but heart knowing and connection to that source, to higher self, that's where it is. So, I mean, that's a huge part of healing, and the whole journey is learning to get out of the way, relinquish
Mm.
control, be comfortable with walking into the unknown, because that's what's going to happen if you're
Yeah,
if you're growing and moving into new places in your journey, new experiences in your journey. There's going to be a lot of unknown.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Mic drop. That's it.
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned that, the letting go and the getting out of the way. That's cool. So did you always know that you're going to be a healer? Were you like, 3, 4, I'm going to be a healer, somatic healing, here I come. Yeah, look out. Yeah, yeah.
I always knew. No, Jay, I didn't.
Yeah, okay.
I I always excuse me. I always had like a sense for people.
Hmm.
So I would always tell, I don't know if you're into human design, but I'm a projector. And in childhood, so it's sad, and that's what I experienced, that projector children have like, we see stuff and we say it, and the adults usually don't like it. So that's how I grew up in a way. Like I was always kind of like pointing out little truths that my parents couldn't really receive. So I grew up in a way with very immature parents. So I felt like often like the parent or the caretaker. And it was a bit chaotic or a lot chaotic. And, nothing against that. It's all good. And at the same time, that cost me a lot of emotions that I carried with me that then later I got to process and reintegrate. And that's why I'm saying it's all good not to put it aside. But I always had a sense for people and what people are feeling. Um, but nobody in my family ever studied. So I felt like I needed to study something. I actually always wanted to go into music, but I
Yeah.
felt like, oh, I'm not good enough or creative enough. I was always creative, but I didn't believe in myself. And
Yeah.
then I went to Australia. I lived in Australia for a year in Melbourne.
Uh-huh.
And I worked there, and that was for me like really liberation because it was really difficult at home. And for the first time, I felt like, wow, the world is my oyster. That felt like the most liberating time in my life back then. And then I came back to Berlin and started studying business, international business management. Then I
Uh,
went into design and tech. So I worked for a long time in startups and was
yeah.
kind of like project managing and creative direction and stuff like that. Then I moved to Portugal and then I co-founded a startup with somebody. And then on the side, I was always doing creative projects, but I never felt like an artist or like a creative. And I also had bands along the way, but I never felt like I could pursue that
Mm-hmm.
until, sound healing came along. And I, for the first time, felt like, oh, I feel a little like an artist now. And that was kind of like the way in for me because
Uh-huh.
it didn't feel like I needed to study a lot. It felt more like my intuition came through. And suddenly people started telling me, wow, okay, you're supposed to do that, not just the sound, but like healing work with people. And back then, like I got like my astrology read and all that. And back then I had no connection to that. So for anybody who ever got read like their astrology or where people said to them, you're supposed to do this or that, and you cannot relate to it, that's okay. You may
Mm-hmm.
grow into it. So that's what
Mm-hmm.
happened to me. Like being here
Wow.
now, who I am, I never thought that I would do that ever.
Wow.
Yet it feels completely aligned and
Huh.
it doesn't ever feel like work to me. You know, it
Yeah.
feels like such a privilege. It feels like, wow, I get to do that. I get to be me. Like now
Mm-hmm.
when I look at my astrology, I'm like, so, oh my God, thank you, soul. But
Mm-hmm.
back then it felt like a burden of responsibility and like, how could I ever live up to that? You know?
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
grow into it. The more you process your traumas, your fears, the parts that you've abandoned of yourself, the parts that you're ashamed of, that you're
Yeah.
guilty of, and when you integrate that, you you dare, you know,
Yeah.
you become
Yeah.
brave and courageous to go for what feels right, even if you don't know where it's going.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that, and that's kind of cool and quite a change from tech
Mhm.
to somatic healing. Like that's
I
a
know, but can you like I like the way that I like to describe it is, when you walk into a dark room
yeah.
and then you switch on the light,
Yeah.
like all my gifts were switched on
Mm.
suddenly. It felt
Yeah.
like I learned, I did all these courses and I learned all these things and it didn't feel like work. It just felt like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I know that. Oh yeah, I remember that. I don't know from when I remember that, but it
Yeah.
was like just like it came back online in a way. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you have the same experience or?
I had a I had quite an awakening,
Yeah.
and but the with regards to gifts and things coming on board, that's been gradual for me. Yeah. But
Yeah.
everyone's experience is different, and that's why I
Mhm.
love talking to people, and I love asking that question. Did you always know you were going to be this? And just finding out the journey to getting there.
Yeah.
Um, I'm curious to know along the way, Vanessa, do you feel that you went unconscious anywhere there? And then, do you feel like you went unconscious from a child? You were saying, you were sensitive and you were feeling things and you were pointing out, or do you feel like
Mhm.
you've stayed relatively conscious? Were there any periods of really dark times before you woke up, that
Mm.
were pivotal in your journey?
Mm. Yeah, good question. Because at the moment, I'm working a lot with the idea of reclaiming one's voice. And then also, I feel like I'm deepening into levels of reclaiming my own voice. Because in my childhood, I feel like I was often, what is a good way to describe that? um, I had a lot of self-trust, and
Mm.
I saw things and I pointed them out and I trusted myself. And I remembered recently that I was even starting, like, I had this strange meditation CD
Yeah.
with like 10 or 12, and I put it in the CD player. And I was just laying on the floor of my room and just listening to that and like with the breathing. And I remembered that recently, and that felt so good. But then I don't know what happened to the CD. So I had moments where I was connecting to these things.
Yeah.
And I again and again I had moments of awakening, like small moments of, like when my parents split up. I was 5 or 6, 6 or 7, and I gained a lot of weight because I felt like unseen and like I needed emotional soothing. So that was kind of my way to take care of myself, I guess. And then at 12, I lost all the weight. And it was like a voice in my head said, like, okay, now we're going to eat right. And
Uh-huh.
it's such a strange thing when you ask my mom and my grandmother, who had a restaurant back then. I would suddenly say like, "Oh, I don't want butter. Don't want this. I don't want that." But I wasn't bulimic, or I didn't have anything like that. It was really like something got switched, and I was like, I just need living foods, you know? So I
Yeah.
had moments in my life, strangely, where I had these switch ons, or like once I woke up in the morning, I was in my early 20s, and I was between two kind of guys that I was dating, and it wasn't done with one, but it wasn't really in with the other. And I woke up in the morning and something told me crystal clear, no, you need to stop this and you're gonna start over. And that's also when I moved to Portugal. So
Uh-huh.
I had pivotal moments in my life where I just trusted guidance,
Yeah.
out of the blue, when it was really strong and loud.
Yeah.
And for me, that always happens with knowing dropping in,
Uh-huh.
you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a voice, but sometimes it's just like you wake up and it's undeniable. And as you were asking about like dark things where
Yeah.
I lost the consciousness, I think like from teenage times till mid 20s, I would say, I was not trusting myself anymore.
Yeah.
I started drinking a lot,
Yeah.
going out a lot. I was more about, everybody else, pleasing other people, and not really taking care of myself well enough. And I think that came from one of my parents often being very dismissive. So I learned you cannot trust yourself, because even if I
Uh,
shared how I felt, that was always dismissed, or it wasn't taken seriously, or manipulated in a way. And therefore, I think I stopped trusting
yeah.
until at some point in my 20s, when there were one or two people who started seeing my sensitivity as like a gift. um, I began to trust it again.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because my next question was, what was the catalyst for you to step out
Mm.
of the drinking world and sort of
Mm.
reconnecting with yourself?
Mm. Um, I I was working in a creative project, and I met somebody who was an artist, or is an artist, and we're really good friends. And he kind of um, showed me a different world of creativity and using your, like being creating things like events and experiences. And I don't know, I was like pulled into that world, and also invited to co-create. And I felt seen in the things that people never saw in me, or that I felt
Mm.
I was never acknowledged in. And that made me start to begin to want to create and want to get to do something creative in my life. And
Yeah.
that opened really the floodgates to also my intuition and taking my creativity seriously,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that was kind of the start where I reconnected also to my musical gifts and to like this emotionality. For the
Yeah.
first time in a long time, my emotionality was welcomed and not kind of rejected. So creating artistic experiences with friends, that was fun, and that made me feel really alive.
Yeah, nice. And when you were sharing there, Vanessa, I was like, I just kept hearing the getting out of the way and creativity.
Mm.
Share your experience about that. Yeah, for me, creativity is very much about getting out of the way, like we were talking about, for that to come through. So I kind of seen the correlation there when you were saying, oh, I was like moving into creativity,
Mm,
that sort of stemmed me, started
beautiful.
me reconnecting with myself, because with that creativity is very much getting out of the way. What's your experience of that?
Yeah, very similar. I think it's again leaping. You
Yeah,
need
yeah,
to allow yourself to experiment, and it doesn't matter at the end of the day if it's, in a growth process, you're going to have some wins and you're going to have some things that are not going to look the way or appear or sound the way that you want it to. But that's okay, because how are you going to improve or gonna finesse, let's call it
mm,
finesse, what you're
yeah,
doing, especially creatively, if you don't see what you don't want, or where it didn't go so well. And I'm so glad that I had friends around me that are like that showed me that it's okay to try out different things, to make yourself a little bit ridiculous even, that
mm,
really helped me to dig in myself. So that was really inspiring. So for anybody listening, if you don't have any friends around that are, interested in creative pursuits like you are, see if you can go into a group or meet some new people at an event, because that is so nourishing to be around people that actually, understand you.
yeah, 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 and want to champion you.
Yeah, exactly. And that like think highly of you, you
Yeah,
know? That
yeah,
is like so under appreciated. People that think highly of you. A lot of people stay in connections and friendships, and that's a topic also, right? Like I don't want to encourage anybody to stop their connections or friendships. I feel like they can evolve. Um, but it's also showing yourself to them. And
yeah,
sometimes that adds to the relationship, just because they are not maybe creatively inclined, but you are, you can show them some of your inner universe,
yeah,
because that will maybe interest them, or they may want to come to your gallery opening or to your yoga session. Maybe they want to support you, but they just don't know that you like those things. Sometimes it's
yeah,
really opening up to people. And if they don't understand or if they are not interested, that's okay. You will find other people who will be. But it's also like setting a standard that
yeah,
you deserve to talk about these things that excite you, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's what I
Comes
had
to,
to learn,
yeah,
because I think
sure.
I was holding back a lot, my sensitivity and emotionality and all these things. And suddenly I was with these people who cherish that. So that made me also open up more freely to my other friends who maybe are not like that. And they
Yeah,
started supporting that as well. So it's like when you open and when you own those aspects of yourself, there's less space to be ridiculed or shamed, because you own it. That
Yeah.
means you accept yourself for it, and you don't judge yourself for it anymore. So you don't think about what will others say, or you don't care about what they think.
Yeah, because you're really owning that.
Mm.
Yeah. Lovely. And I just feel that having a healthy support network, friends, just professionally, personally, spiritually, is just so important. It really enriches
Mm.
our life. And if that's not in place, and interested to hear your perspective on this, if that's not in place, then I feel like that comes back to some level of self-esteem issues within ourselves. Like, what am I feeling worthy of? If I feel
Mm.
worthy of being treated with respect and being championed, then I'll attract those people into my life. But if I don't feel worthy of that, if I do think that I'm a piece of shit and I'm not worthy, then
Mm.
that's going to be reflected in my external world as well. So there's learning in all of it. My experience though is very much within, within is reflected without. And so
Yeah.
the more that I've cherish myself and what I've got to offer, then, the more that I attract people around me that do want to champion me. But that's all stemmed from my own choosing within me.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really beautiful what you're saying, Jay. And I absolutely agree. It's like really when you feel disconnected from others or like you're not welcome, still look within, and
Yes.
not in the judgmental way, but as you said, in this way of where do I feel? Where do I judge myself? Where do I feel like I don't belong or I'm,
Exactly.
like not enough or too much or something? And I have a lot of people actually who comment sometimes on my videos saying, yeah, but I have nobody and I try to connect, but they are all like this and that, and
Yeah,
that
yeah,
too
yeah.
is judgment. Not to
Hmm.
judge anybody, like thank you for sharing. And where, like where are you judging these people or where are you judging yourself?
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Like there's still a part of you that is not kind to yourself or accepting of yourself. Otherwise you wouldn't feel so disconnected. And this is something that I really want to also highlight, because in the spiritual world, and I'm curious what you think about this also, Jay, like in the spiritual world, a lot of people protect themselves by separating themselves or isolating themselves. But it's not actually healthy. It is maybe for a period of time while you're having your awakening and so on and so forth. But then also reconnect with people because we need each other,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. What do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. Like the job is for us to be in the world, and uh, that's, it's taking all this for those ones who might be more aware, not better, not superior, more aware. Well, what good is that if we're, hiding away in a cave? Yeah, there's cave time that's needed, but I feel like very much in this day and age, it's about being in the world, and I share it like being in the world but not of the world. That's how we
I
share
like
it,
that.
and it's really about integrated heart mastery, being integrated
Mm,
human and spirit together, not just hiding away, because what the issues are here on the ground, the issues are
mm,
here in the world. So we're not helping the world if we're hiding away in a cave, and we're not out there
yeah.
in the world doing our bit and sharing and serving in that way.
Mm, I totally agree. There is this there's also this idea of you're being a star seed or whatever, and that's why you cannot connect or don't belong or something. But I feel like you can, like, we all have lived before
Yeah,
many lives. I don't know where, it doesn't matter. And maybe have certain aspects that are from other regions of the universe and whatever. And yet, it's a way of separation when you're
yeah,
like, oh, that's why I don't belong. Like we still belong.
yeah,
We because we are the universe. So,
yeah.
we're made of stardust. So we are here to belong. And I think that's what we're supposed to learn in this lifetime or in any lifetime, really like to overcome separation and get into union again, you know.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
whenever, maybe also for anybody listening, whenever you find yourself judging yourself or others, maybe you can pause and check in. Oh, where is here a pain point connected to that judgment, right?
Mhm.
Like, where have I been wrong? Where have I been wronged? Where have I wronged? You know, what is this judgment connected to? Is it jealousy? Is it fear? Is it anger? Resentment? What is it connected to? And then take a minute to breathe and feel it and be honest with yourself. And that's going to be so liberating. And it's going to take away the separation and lead to a deeper connection also, I would say.
Yeah, liberating and confronting because you're facing your own
Mm,
stuff. And when
yeah.
that all that stuff there that you were sharing about looking within and what's being reflected is, in my experience, the universal mirror, life, is always reflecting what's going on within us. So,
Mm,
and when you spoke of the people leaving a comment about this person is this, they're this. I remember many moons ago, I read in a book somewhere, when you're doing that, change every they are to I am. To
mm,
do it right. And
yeah.
it was a big process because it was, and my experience very much was, oh, the universe is just mirroring me to me. So any twinges
Mm,
I have in me, it's just pointing to unresolved stuff in me. Like you were saying, judgment, jealousy, comparing, just unresolved things within
mm,
me. And when we can work with the universal mirror and know that life's just actually trying to help us get in touch with the things that need healing and released,
mm,
which is just energy, like you're saying, that we've stored in the body, trapped energy, energy that we've judged. Because in my experience,
mm,
judgment really traps the energy. Because if we don't judge it, then it can just move. Emotion, energy in motion, it's meant to
yeah.
be moving all the time. It's only our mind and our judgment that, really traps it in the body. So if we can really get conscious that, oh, I've put my hand up to be the best version of myself, and and I want to serve, or whatever your words are, I want to be better, I
Mm,
want to step into more authenticity, be the best version of myself. The universe goes, oh yeah, that's awesome, I'm going to get behind you, and here I'm
mm,
going to reflect all of these things that you need to deal with. Everything that's
mm,
stopping you from being the best version of yourself, everything that's standing in the way of that, I'm going to get you in touch with. And so when we consciously working with that, it becomes less personal. It's like,
mm,
oh, thank you, universe. Thank you. Yeah, that's actually me. That's actually me. And it's not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because sometimes people are being assholes. And
yeah.
that's true. Yet it's like always bringing it back to self, which can
Mhm.
be incredibly confronting, because basically what you're doing is you're dismantling your ego, and that's a challenging thing to do. So yeah, or when you were sharing there, I'm like, yeah, it's just the universe loving on us and reflecting to
Yeah.
us the stuff that we need to look at. Thank you. Oh, thank
Thank
you.
you,
Because
universe. We love you.
yeah, yeah. It,
Even if you're a tough mother sometimes.
yeah, absolutely. But I mean, it takes courage as well, Vanessa,
Mm,
to
yeah.
really go within and get to work.
Yeah, it's true. But you know, when you were just talking, I felt this like, sorry, that was the doggy, if you heard a bark. When you were just talking, I felt this like playfulness inside, because if you if you approach it with like this attitude or approach that you just shared with us, if you're always like getting curious, or even getting up in the morning with this idea of, good morning, universe. Thank you for another day. Thank you for my body. Thank you for my mind. Thank you for my heart. Let me see what you're going to show me today. Because then, even if like some experiences suck a little bit,
Yeah.
I now know that this is a good day. It's going to be a good day. When I'm not in the best mood, I know this is going to be such a good day, because the universe is going to push me closer to myself, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe you can turn it around and see it a little more like playfulness, like a little, like that's the game of life, literally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I now see it more whenever something difficult is coming up. I'm like, I see you, universe. I've got you. So if you
Yeah,
see it like that, you're getting more curious, and it's like it suddenly becomes fun. Although on the mental plane, it's like something's wrong. Oh, we got to deal with that. Take a breath, turn it around, and be like, ooh, that's good.
yeah,
Why is it good? Because I'm being challenged to get closer to my own authentic self with that. And even if you believe in manifestation, something is wanting to connect with you,
yeah,
but it cannot because something is still in the way. So that's
yeah,
why the challenge is coming up to kind of, break the misalignment or realign you, break the blockage. Break is a hard word, but like dissolve the blockage through you responding differently to today than you did yesterday. And
love
that's
all of
growth.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. Love the curiosity and love seeing it as a game. And just that attitude shift can be just so helpful.
Yeah. And
And
we got to go through it anyway. Might as well make it playful.
yeah, yeah. And if we remember that it really is the universe helping us to step into more authenticity, then we
Mm,
can be grateful for that, even if they are darker or perceived to be horrible experiences, because we
mm,
know it's only through those horrible experiences and mistakes that we grow. Because I think you said at the start of it, how else are we going to grow? We need to make
yeah,
mistakes. That's how we learn. Oh, okay, not that.
absolutely.
Okay, so we'll try something else. That's part of the journey. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
it's when you were sharing as well. It's like with the really good days, and this is something I feel people trip up on is when we're really connected and we're having one of those good days, and there's lots of love and there's lots of light and joy, and that's really pouring in. What people don't realize is love will highlight that which isn't love within us, right? So
Mm.
if I'm having one of those really bright days, I know that I'm preparing for that to wash up some stuff that isn't loved in me. Does that make sense to you? Do you resonate with that?
Totally.
And
This is
and
such a good way to describe it. Yeah.
yeah, because and I work with people a lot because they think that they're doing something wrong. But I was feeling all this bliss, and I was like, even at the start when you were like really going for it, I know myself, and it sounded like there was a lot of energy and love and light coming in, and then the dark night of the soul and that kind of experience. It's like, yeah, it just washes up everything
Mm.
that isn't vibrating at that frequency. It's like so it's like it gives us an insight into how it could be, and the universe is
Yeah.
helping us to well have a look at all this stuff. This is the stuff that's in the way that needs
Mhm.
loved, that you need to sort out. So that's something I feel that trips people up, and I'm doing something wrong because
Yeah.
oh my God, I'm falling because I felt so much
Mm.
love and bliss the other day. I'm like, this is
Mm.
part of the process. Yet that love state that you experience has now got you in touch with all this stuff that needs looked at. Once you clear that out, empty that pool, it makes more room for that to be there, to
Mhm.
embody more of that. And then guess what? More of it will come up. It's just this ongoing journey. And I feel bringing awareness around that process is helpful for people because they can get a bit down on themselves when they really
Mhm.
have those heightened states and then they lose it. And it's like that's part of the
Mm.
process. It's part of
Yeah.
the
I'm
process of
sure that's
connecting.
really reassuring when you share that with them. I think
Yeah,
that's when they need to hear it, and that gives also strength for the next challenge that may be awaiting, no?
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah. So with regards to clients, Vanessa, what do you feel is the most common issue that people come to you with? What's the most common thing?
Yeah. Good question. So I have a lot of people who come because, they are in like a spiritual awakening, or they are going through anxiety, panic, burnout. They don't know what's going on. They've lost kind of their connection to self. So that's often something. Also, when, like they cannot feel, they're like completely disconnected to the feminine, no matter
Yeah.
of men or women.
Yeah.
Um, that's like a lot. Yeah, I think, people who want to have, like, people who know there's more, but they don't know how to access it also often. So I
Yeah.
find that, and maybe I'm sure you've have that too. Whatever I've gone through, a lot of inner child healing, which is always part of it. Whatever I've gone through comes up in client sessions as well,
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
reflection. So
Yeah.
whenever I go through a new theme, then that will be also reflected in my sessions once I've overcome that, because then I know how to handle it or how to work with people on it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I always feel like big themes are often connected to inner child healing, anxiety and panic, which is often connected to something that happened in early life or in one specific experience. Um, I love working with men also, and them reconnecting to their sensitivity, to their emotions, and the little boy within,
Yeah.
and realizing they are worthy and deserving as well. So I've had really beautiful journeys with men as well, and just seeing that when they reconnect to themselves, it's so easy to feel. It's not just something that, because I also get a lot of women who then say, oh my God, there are no good men out there anymore. And I'm like, that's not true. Oh my God, I'm probably here to reassure you. Men are working on themselves as well. And, they want to open their hearts as well and feel and, like be a container for you. And so it's really beautiful to see both sides, men and
Yeah.
women in their processes,
Yeah.
which I'm not sure if you work, with men or women specifically or with everybody, but I'm
Yeah.
curious, how you experience your clients.
Yeah, it's the same. It's nice to see both. We're all banged up. All of us are banged up. And it is always nice to see men stepping on the path because we need
Mhm.
more. We need more of us. Yeah.
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure.
So what would be your favorite thing about being a practitioner and the somatic healing?
I love to see when people have like a realization, or like not just mentally, but like a full, sometimes that's not in the same set, like in the same sessions afterwards, they're often like stunned, or like, there's a lot going on, but then the next week when they come back, it's like, oh my God, I need to tell you this, so
Yeah.
that's my favorite thing. Also,
Yeah.
when they break open, and that sounds maybe a little weird, but when people allow themselves to submit to their feelings, to break the ice of
Yeah.
being in their head and speaking about a problem, but then we always get to a point of, and it opens and they connect. And
Yeah.
I love that, because then the humanity comes through, the heart is activated, so I love people having their own realization. It has nothing to do with me. It's just seeing them realize their worth, or that they're lovable, or that they can be expressed and be seen, and that's safe. When they have a breakthrough, that's all I want. That's all I want for them.
Beautiful. Yeah, beautiful, Vanessa. Nice to play a small part in that, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, because I feel like, and maybe I'm curious what you think about this. I see it already when they
Hmm.
come to me. I see like they just need to break through to their emotions or need to allow something. I see already that potential, but
Yeah.
then they don't see it in themselves at all sometimes. And then
Yeah.
they get there, and it's so beautiful to see the full circle in a way when
Yeah.
they see it.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I love that.
Nice. And that I'm sure is very helpful for your clients as the facilitator, as a practitioner, to hold them in that space. Whether it's talked about or not, just to hold them, you seeing their potential and knowing that that's
Mhm.
possible, just energetically, that will you're championing them to you can see them. So, that would be that I'm sure that would be a huge component of the success that you have with people is just seeing them as well as the other work you're doing, but just seeing that potential and knowing that it's
Mm,
possible.
maybe. I don't know. This is for me. Yeah, I guess that's why they come or that's why they stay. It's this. I love to hold people. It's so easy for me to hold people. Um, and that's something I had to work on myself to allow myself to be held. Because I often had this belief like, oh, all that I'm holding inside is too much for somebody to hold.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I also have the people that I work with as a client, and learned that I'm not too much to be held. So holding people is very easy for me, and I think they open up. So I guess they trust me. I guess they feel held. Yeah, I
Yeah.
hope so. I hope
Yeah.
so.
They must feel safe if they're opening up.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm glad you
yeah. I love
mentioned
it.
I'm glad you mentioned that you are a client, because I was going to ask about your support network as well, and is that important to you as a practitioner to have support or professional supervision, or what is that for you? How do you operate in that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's incredibly important to be a client as well, to have a support network. I have really good friends that are really grounded.
Yeah,
Some of them have nothing to do with this world, and that is good. They're just very spiritual without knowing it.
I love those
They're very
people.
much in there.
Yeah, easy
They're
to.
very grounded,
Yeah,
easygoing in their heart, not too loving, but not too, like
yeah,
ethereal. You know what
yeah.
I mean?
No, this is all you needed to do. Yeah, I understood that. Yeah,
Exactly. And
yeah,
I think that's what I need. So I also have friends in the realm, of this work, which is also good. And then I also have teachers that I work with. I usually work with people that are older than me, just because I really easily see through people and kind of like, I guess, the methods they apply or whatever. So I need somebody who also tells me my bullshit.
yeah,
Sorry for my French, but also can tell me my bullshit. So I need that.
yep,
Yeah, that's it. So I also have somebody I work somatically with. I have a friend, she's an astrologer. So I just sometimes like to know what's going on in my astrology. And then I also love to do some body work, like shiatsu, stuff like that, chiropractor, because I'm curious what you think about this, but I feel like when you uncover or integrate so much energetically, emotionally, your body needs to be adjusted as well to hold that new frequency. That's how I feel.
yeah. I feel a holistic approach is important, and most
Mm.
certainly, absolutely, it's important to take care of the body and get chiro or your massage or the somatic stuff, Bowen therapy, whatever
Mm.
works for you. Yeah, I feel absolutely, because the body goes through so much when a lot of people do process through their body, like you're saying, a lot of people store stuff in their body. We
Mm.
all have and we all do. So it's really important to
Yeah,
do some sort of body work, I feel. Absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And
definitely.
what about you, YouTube? I can't not have you on the show and not ask you about that. How did that start? Because you got a growing following, and which is cool,
Yeah.
which is how you popped up on my feed. So how did that start? It's really cool. I love the channel, and it seems like you do have quite a loyal following, and people that actually do respect you and love you. So that's really nice.
Mm.
How's that?
Thank you.
Yeah, that's cool.
Um, I wanted to like, okay, I'm gonna try to explain it because maybe people will relate to it and hopefully get going with whatever they want to do. I always get these inputs in my head or in my, yeah, it comes like a message into my head. And that says something like YouTube. And it said
Yeah.
YouTube already for 10 years.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
like on and off, on and off. And last year, I think I started YouTube. Yeah, I think last year.
Oh,
Um,
that's pretty good.
that,
You've done well
you
quickly.
know, I think last July or something,
Oh, not
maybe
even a
June or
year.
July. Yeah, so it's
Nice.
been
Good on
nearly a
you.
year.
Good on you.
Thank you. And I felt like, well, yeah, I always like to take photos or videos. And I actually once won a trip to Thailand because I sent like a video to Vice Media. I don't know if you know, I don't
Yeah,
know if
yeah,
they're
I know
still
Vice.
existing.
Yeah.
And I once won a trip. So that actually retrospectively showed me like, maybe I'm not so bad with like talking to people or, editing or something like that. And then I thought about maybe I should start a YouTube, but then I didn't know what to talk about. Like in that time I have nothing to say. I didn't have my voice yet in the sense of like clearly getting input or clearly having something that I want to share. And so there was never for me a reason to share,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there was never really something that needed to be, that was strong enough to push me to do it. Let's put it like that. And then a couple of years ago, there was already this like voice coming back and being like, you should do YouTube, you should do YouTube. And I ignored it, obviously. And then last year, I was just visiting my family and um, the voice came back and I literally took my phone, went for a walk in the forest, put on my camera, turned on the recording and then recorded the first video. And I think I even in the video said something around um, this is my first video and I don't know where I'm going with this. I feel like I'm starting something new. So blah, 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 blah. And then I committed for a few months to daily videos. So I did
Okay.
that
Yeah.
for a few months.
Yeah.
And then I felt like that doesn't feel aligned anymore. So I moved to a few times a week or weekly.
Yeah.
And then I just kept going. And my intention was to just allow my soul to speak without, having it in a perfect setup, having it in a perfect frame, editing it perfectly. I decided to start it as simple as possible so that I will follow through. And that's also what I would advise anybody to do who wants to start something new. Just let yourself do it, like make an easy entrance. So as I didn't give myself like a script or give myself anything, I just the only thing I did was close my eyes for a minute, take a deep breath and say literally, all right, soul speak through me. And that's how I started recording, and that's how I actually still do it. And I usually speak on topics that I feel are present with my clients or that are present for me or where that I see in the world. And I edit few things. I just still let my soul speak because I used to be really a perfectionist with all kinds of things. And I wanted it also to be like your big sister is talking to you or your
Yeah.
friend is talking to you. I want
Yeah.
it to be digestible in language that is relatable and not from like a book or something where it's written like super professionally. I just
Yeah.
want people to understand these concepts that can be sometimes a little far-fetched in simple
Yeah.
terms.
I've got to say, I feel like you've done a wonderful job with that. The channel feels really
Thank you.
welcoming, and I love that it's not edited to the hilt. I love that because it's interesting that you said like your big sister talking to you. It does have that family feel. Like there's not much
Mhm.
there's no pretense there. It's just you being you very organically and speaking from the heart. And that really attracted me. It's like, oh, because there's no glitz and glamour, and it's just here it is, and this is what it is. So well done with that, Vanessa. I feel like,
Thank you.
I really appreciate your YouTube channel, and I wish you the continued success with it. It's awesome that it's not even a year. So good on you. Must have
Thank
that
you.
voice that you were hearing for 10 years must have known something. Hey,
Yeah,
imagine
maybe,
that.
maybe, you know. So everybody listen to that voice and take action on it.
Yeah,
Do it messy. It's okay, and
yeah,
it's gonna bring you so much joy because when I just read like the comments that people leave about, oh God, thank you for sharing that. Like I had no expectations and I still, put it up and I have no expectations. If it just helps one person, great. And you probably feel the same, it's just sometimes you feel like you need to share something and it's not from your ego. It's just something wants out. And if anybody listening has that, try it out, see what comes from it. Give yourself like a 30-day challenge or whatever,
yeah,
and allow your soul to work through you.
yeah. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Like, if do you have an idea of that? Where do you want to go from here? Where do you want to,
Mm,
what's your plans
yeah.
if you have any?
It's so funny because I used to have so many plans. I used to push myself so hard and I used to be so driven. And I'm not going to say I lost that. I'm a driven person. I have, like dreams and visions and all that. And yet I don't feel so needy around it anymore. It doesn't feel like I need to achieve that in order to be somebody. I already know I am how I am, and that's that's it, period. And so when I think of where am I in 10 years, I hopefully help as many people as possible. I want to be healthy. I want my friends and family to be healthy. I want to live in a beautiful space, maybe in nature. Um, yeah, and just create meaningful, impactful content for people. Like I'm also working on a bit of a membership kind of thing. I also like to create meditation. So just whatever comes through me, and I'm sure, the universe will guide me, that is allowed to come. And all I want is like to live in authenticity and purposefully. Um, yeah, very simple. And whatever output comes, great. But I don't feel like I need to have 1 million subscribers on YouTube. If that helps, if what I have to say helps 1 million people, great. But I don't have like any metrics anymore that I would need to achieve. So as long as I feel like my cup is filled up and I get to overflow and fill everybody else's, I want to do that, but in a healthy way and in alignment. So that's all I wish for, I guess.
Really, really lovely. And so blessed to have YouTube as a platform for that, Vanessa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't you think that too? Like, I
I
love
feel like,
YouTube.
yeah, it's
I
a
just
wonderful
feel like this
platform to
is,
reach. Yeah, yeah.
and I feel like it's still a platform that moves with integrity. Um, I don't know. I love YouTube. And everybody who wants to start like a social channel who's listening, don't feel like you need to start what everybody is doing. Do whatever feels good for you. For example, Instagram, I'm like, yeah, I still have it. It's good. It's okay. But I don't feel like pushing anything there because it feels inauthentic to push. And so YouTube for me is like, oh my God, I want to upload a new video. Whatever excites you, do that, I would say to
Yeah,
people.
yeah, absolutely. Just follow that feeling in the heart, whatever feels right for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. So, what would you say to anyone out there who is just starting to move into healing, to start to
Mhm.
wake, those ones who are starting to wake up and to know that there's more to life than meets the eye and realize that they've got wounding they need to heal? What would you say to those people, anyone watching this?
Hmm. I would say you're already good as you are. And to feel better, if you want to feel better, deal with what is coming up right now, what is priority right now. You don't need to dig up everything now, because that could make you feel like I have so many, traffic jams, or yeah, I have so many things to work on.
Yeah.
So focus on the one thing that is relevant in your life right now. So let's say, you have issues with your partner. Look into that, work with somebody, ask yourself, what is the pain point here? Is this the right relationship for me, or is this a me problem? Right? Um, if you have issues with your career, or you're at the moment feeling a little lost, don't know where to go next, ask yourself, what do I feel excited about? What do I want to do? What have I not allowed myself to walk towards? And just work with the issue at hand and fully ask yourself all those deep questions. Maybe work with somebody on it, or go out to a group breathwork session or anything like that, like dig in, get super curious. But I would really advise you, don't open too many boxes at the same time, because it will confuse you, it can overwhelm you, and it will, not make you feel safe, maybe. So if you want to do this in a safe way, do one step at a time.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Yeah. Wise.
Mm.
Very wise to approach the work in that way. Absolutely.
And then it can also be fun, like, because
Yeah.
there may be realizations that are hard and heavy and teary, and falling apart. Falling apart may be a part of it, but it's contained. It's not gonna, like, and if it needs to ripple out, it will. But it's okay if you go slow. Your
Yeah.
process is your process. Don't look left and right. Don't feel like you're behind. You're not behind.
Hmm.
You're not behind. Yeah. And you need to also tell that to yourself again and again, that yeah, you're unique, and your process is as well.
Yeah, lovely, Vanessa. And it comes back to what you were sharing at the start, is everybody has their own pace. So I loved what you were sharing there. Don't look around, don't compare. Your journey's your journey, and it'll be at your
Mm.
own pace.
Yeah, totally. Because it can really make you crazy in the head to see
Yeah.
where everybody else is at,
Yeah.
and where you're not at, maybe where you think you should be. But maybe give life the benefit of a doubt, that even if you're going through a challenging situation, that there is light at the end of the tunnel, Like, I
Yeah.
went through moments where I felt like, maybe gonna die tonight in that panic attack. And then I let go, and I was like, okay, well, I had a pretty good life, so far so good. And then it passed. So also allow the feelings that are coming up, allow them to be here. And if that feels scary, again, learn to how to allow the feelings. Let a friend hold your hand while you're processing in emotion. Go to a practitioner. It feels all worse than it actually is, I would say.
Yeah, nice one. Yeah, nice. It feels like a big component of this is finding your people or your person, someone that you really trust, that you feel held with, because it's difficult. It's
Mm.
difficult, and
Yeah.
having professional support or just good support, people that genuinely care for you, but most certainly practitioners as well that you trust, that can help
Yeah.
facilitate as well, feels really important. And it's yeah, it can be difficult. It's not all love and light. It's not all love and light. I mean, it is all love and light, but it's not all love and light. It's healing. If we're healing from something,
Yeah.
that means that there's something to be healed from, which usually means some sort of pain or some horrible experience. So there is
Yeah.
darkness involved, and to have loving, caring people around that really see you and champion you again is very, very helpful.
Mm. Totally agree. And I like the way that you say that, like the championing,
Yeah.
like just knowing that people are rooting for you. That's
Yeah.
good.
It's
Yeah.
when you said moving into more unity. That's, it's that. It's
Mm.
championing. It's that namaste
Mm.
experience. I see it as, Vanessa, God in me, love in me, the same in me, greets, honors, loves,
Yeah.
and champions the same in you. It's that
Yeah.
experience that moving more into oneness as much as we can.
I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. So there's a couple of questions I asked everyone at the end of the podcast, but before I get to that, is there anything else you want to share? Is there anything else in your heart that you want to share about your journey, about healing, any encouragement, anything that sticks out that you'd like to put on the table?
I feel like we feel like we touched on everything. I feel pretty good. So I'm good for the two questions that you said, or the questions you said.
Yeah, all right, sure. Just one more thing actually. And you might have already
Go
might have
for it.
already answered it, but I just want to ask, what has been your biggest challenge with your healing journey? If you could pick one thing, if there is one thing, what has it been?
Yeah, I would definitely say this time of panic attacks. Like
Yeah.
that time after this, ayahuasca experience, and it wasn't my first, and it didn't feel like it was the most challenging one, but it felt like the medicine universe, whoever was involved, wanted to show me, all right, now here we stop. Now here you gotta, like learn some lessons. So let's go. That
Yeah.
was very hard for me because I didn't know who to talk to who could relate to me. And even looking on YouTube, I hardly found, Meow, oh baby.
That's
I
Bruce for
hardly
anyone
found,
doesn't know.
no, that's Luca.
Oh, it's
It's a
another one.
doggy.
Okay.
I hardly found any information on YouTube that would describe my process. Like not much. And I on my own channel, I haven't talked too much yet about it because the topic hasn't really come up in my consciousness to teach or to forward. So I know it's about to come up, so that's good. But I noticed not even on YouTube there was like support that would have helped me. And I even went to the doctor to check up my body. It was all okay. It was
Yeah.
just I felt alone and not really understood. And I
Yeah.
felt even strange talking again and again with my friends about it because it was hard for normal people without meaning above or below, just people who are not going through a spiritual process to understand what I was going through. And that put me a bit in this. I could sometimes not even leave the house just to understand the severity of it. Like leaving the
Wow.
house would already feel like, oh my God, like all the energies. I feel like pressed against the wall. Like it was really difficult. Definitely that time felt sometimes like, will I ever get out of this? That
Whoa.
was challenging. Yeah.
Wow. Did you already speak about what got you out of that? Was the creative stuff as well? What was the catalyst to bring you out of that really dark period?
It was definitely not one thing. It was really a process. So I had to stop coffee. I had to stop anything stimulating. Sometimes I couldn't even watch a movie because if it was something, where there was maybe a fight or something, that was overstimulating for me already. I could
Yeah.
hardly look at my phone. On some days, I would just lay in bed.
Hmm.
I felt really like, what is happening? Is my life over? Am I dying? I couldn't get it. And so what got me out of it was just gradually processing all the trauma that came up at once. So
Yeah.
that were, and at the same time, desensi I don't know the word, like desensitizing myself
Yeah. Yeah.
from this heightened awareness and grounding myself back into this reality, back into literally planet Earth. So
Yeah.
it was really a time of learning, like you said also in the beginning of our session, learning how to ground, learning
Mm.
how to keep energies that are not for your highest good out. Like
Yeah.
that, honestly, I feel like I went through the boot camp of my life
Mm.
to learn all these things and how to reintegrate. Like, for example, sometimes when I had a panic attack at night, I would wake up in the next morning and just be like, okay, so what was the panic connected to? And then, for example, I felt like there was music coming. I slept with an open window and there was music in the next house. And that music triggered a memory in me
Yeah.
of like just not feeling safe at home because maybe my parents would have parties and I would wake up in the middle of the night and just felt like, what's going on? So
Yeah.
these things were triggered. So when I realized in the next morning what it was connected to, I could process it. So then I would do a breathwork session or anything that helped me truly release. Um, and another thing that is also connected to that is when you have like a Kundalini awakening, or, you know, when you're anyway going through a spiritual awakening, there's a lot of energy moving through your body. So if you're not moving your body enough, that energy cannot be discharged. And that can also like thunder and lightning in
Yeah.
yourself lead to panic attacks so that it gets discharged. And that's
Yeah.
also what I understood. Like, okay, get up when panic is coming, dance or move so that the energy is being
Move the energy.
discharged. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just discover it's just learning by doing, basically.
Yeah. Huh. I
Yeah.
love your
And what,
description of the boot camp. Sorry, Vanessa, continue.
no, it's okay. No, I was just going to say that gradually helped me get out of it. I also used some flower essences because I
Yeah.
couldn't use anything else. So that really helped me to soften, to
Yeah.
integrate the fear and all that. So gradually only. Yeah.
Yeah. It feels like a boot camp, and I just feel to share on that to people watching this to be careful out there
Yeah.
because it's not really a game when the spiritual awakening process isn't something to toy with, because it can send you
Yeah.
mad if you're trying to force things to activate before they're ready and all
Hmm.
that sort of stuff. And the work that I'm doing is very much about grounded, integrated work. And a lot of
Yeah.
people that come, they're like, oh, we want to know the high end stuff and activate this and spin Merkabas and all this. It's like, what's that got to do with grounding and expressing love? Because the
Mm.
ascension process and this spiritual process that we're going through is a very natural, organic process that will happen in
Yeah.
its own time. Our job is to refine ourselves, get psychologically clear, so clear out all the fear. And as we do that, naturally and very organically, things will start to switch on. So I just feel
Mm.
I'm glad I asked you those questions there because, that feels to me like a bit touch and go. And yeah, just lucky that
Hmm.
you are the person that you are and you got through and you had the capacity to stay grounded and coach yourself and just work through and have certain techniques to help you. Yeah, not everyone has that. And especially if they're
Mm.
using drugs and going through, even if it's guided with facilitators, it's just be careful and
Mm. Yeah.
don't push things too far and make sure that
Absolutely.
you're really listening to that whisper in your heart. If things feel off,
Mm.
then listen to that and take your
Yeah.
time and I'm just so big on the basics, the grounding and the
Absolutely.
being centered and aligning and psychological clarity and psychic protection and only open to energies of unconditional love and above and really getting all those basics tight
Mm.
and if we do that then in where there's less likely it's less likely that we're going to trip up and have these experiences which can be harmful ultimately.
Yeah. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And it also, I think, has to do with trusting your own judgment. Because obviously, I felt also that something is not right in that session. You know if it's with in a relationship, with a business partner, with a colleague, with a company that you're applying to, whatever it is, but you override it because you think, no, but it seems okay. It's all how it should be. No, you gotta learn, and that's also somatic, to trust your feeling.
Yeah.
and practice that, because now
Yeah.
people may say like, yeah, but your feeling is not always right. Yes, but that's why you need to learn to discern between what is your true intuition and what
Yeah.
is your mind, right? Like, and you can do that with small things, just like literally picking your ice cream flavor. Do you really like vanilla, or is it just because that's what you ate all your life?
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
really enjoy coffee, or is it just what you drank all life, but it doesn't make you feel good? Like, start with the tiny pieces. And when you start building trust in, or actually your system starts trusting you again,
Yeah. Cool.
you know, then you can go to the big stuff. Because when you build up, just like Jay, like you just said, when you're with the basics, okay, you have a foundation to
Mm.
then also leap. Because when you leap before you have the foundation, may not be such a safe landing. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
do it in a way where you stay in control, but not control in the way of, holding on like crazy, in the way of you can always come back to the ground. So when you go through an experience, make sure you take time to ground. And it's often longer than you think you need. So, for example, if you go to like a psychedelic experience, or even just breath work, which is also a psychedelic experience, make sure you have a few days of time to ground, to really intentionally check in with yourself. What do I need before you do something else? Because there are also people at the moment out there who are like, okay, I'm on my healing journey. This week I have Reiki, and I have this and I have that. And next week I have this and that. And they're just jumping from trialing practitioners. But that can also mess up your system. I would really recommend you, sure, try out things that you're curious about, but with care and in between grounding time, because faster than you can imagine, you're going to slip up.
Yeah. You need time to integrate.
Yeah. And I would even say this is more important than the session. Like, the session is one piece, but then if you don't do the integration part, you will bypass your experience, because
Yeah. Yeah.
only if you integrate what happened in that particular experience, it's going to become a blessing in your life, or it's going to change something in your life. If you don't take that integration time, it's going to float away again,
Yeah.
often.
Yeah. Well
Unless you're
said.
forced to integrate. Unless you're forced to integrate.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, well
Mm,
said, Vanessa, and it's very true. We can get caught up, especially at the start when people are really seeking and that, they're excited. So you got to check things
yeah.
out, like you said. But it can be like, oh, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And
Mm,
not really taking the time to really soak in that lesson and that
yeah.
session and that learning and that insight. So, oh, what's next? What's next? And feels really important to share with all of that stuff there as well. One of, if not the most important skill I feel that we can develop here is listening to our own heart and connecting to that
Exactly.
knowing within the soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it, really working on that because it comes back full circle to the start when
Mm,
we were talking about the disconnection and people being in the head. The head doesn't know. The head is a tool
mm,
that you use as the soul. But so many of us are caught up thinking that we are our thoughts and this knows everything. It doesn't. And a
mhm.
huge part of this journey, in my experience and the people that I work with, is helping them reconnect to their intuition and listening to the knowing in their heart because the head doesn't know.
Yeah.
How, since since when on in this journey is it's all about walking into the unknown and like most often the highest clearest brightest step that we can take isn't going to be a logical one. It's
Yeah.
the head's not going to understand it and we're not going to know why. It's about trusting and taking that step and learning to listen and reconnect with the intuition. And I love the example, which you've probably heard, driving at night, you can see 200 meters ahead of you. That's all you need to see. Just deal with that.
Mm,
And then the next 200 meters, you deal with that. But critical within all this, Vanessa, no matter what you're doing, is learning. to trust, listen, and hear and take action upon what your
Absolutely.
heart's actually saying to you.
100%. Absolutely, Jay. Absolutely. And when you start doing that, you will also realize you don't need so many psychic readings or tarot readings,
It's
because
all
sometimes
here.
people get a little lost with that. It's all
Yeah,
here, like you're saying,
yeah,
and that is so much more important. So when people sometimes get caught up with, watching another reading or booking another reading, you are giving away your power, so like Jay said, like make it a priority to know you, to connect
mm,
to you, to ask your heart, what do you need?
yeah,
Because that will give you the safety and the connection that you're seeking so much in all the things that you're buying and consuming and, holding on to.
yeah. And all of those things are fun things and stepping stones
Mhm.
on the journey. It
Absolutely.
just becomes a problem like when we become attached to it, because the
Yeah.
whole journey is about reconnecting and realizing that everything that you need can be sourced from within. It's like not
Yeah.
only listening to the heart and the knowing therein, but realizing that anything that you need on your healing journey, love, acceptance, approval, validation, whatever quality that you need, you actually
Mhm.
have within you in here. So there's just so
Mm.
much to be said about listening to your heart, which has been bandied around so much now. But it's so much more than just this airy fairy thing, listening to your heart. It's like
Yeah.
genuinely listening to your heart. That's your connection to that eternal aspect of yourself. And that's where everything is. That's about self-sourcing. That's how we become self-sufficient. And yeah, so absolutely agree with what you said there about how it's giving away your power and everything that we need is in here.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And this at the same time, like you said, it's fun to do that sometimes, right? So, like,
Yeah,
it's fun to get a reading and all that. Just again, it's about balancing it out and just being aware that you don't do it because you feel that neediness, like
yeah.
this dependency of I need to know. When you feel like you need to know, go inside and work with that fear.
Who needs to know? Like, who is that wants to know in me? Where
Yes.
are you? Yeah, yeah. And all of those things, yeah, like you said, fun and stepping stones. Yeah, ultimately, yeah, just want to move into more of that sovereignty and knowing that everything
Yeah.
that we need is within us. Yeah, I'm glad I bloody asked that question. I thought we were wrapping up, and then we went on a little tangent, which was
Here we are.
great.
We went on a little tangent.
A great, perfect tangent. All right, let's do these two questions then. So, if you could take with you only one lesson from this life, everything else was erased, what would that be?
It's all love. That's the word that's like beaming for me the last weeks. Like love, 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 love. Beyond everything is love. Whatever you layers you unplug, whatever layers you take off, you will only find love beyond it, like beneath it, because that's what we all want. That's what we all are, like that's what I felt so strongly in my meditation this morning. It's all love. It's all love. That's the
Love
whole
that.
purpose
Love
of
that.
this thing.
Yeah, yeah, nice. Can I share with you something that you can I share with you something? It's a quote that
Please.
I think you might like because it's like it felt like you were going to say that is beyond all is love and loving all is the beyond.
Mm. Ooh, that's a good one. I'm gonna ask you later to send it to me.
Yeah,
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah,
yeah, nice.
absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks, Vanessa. And also, in real time right now, if you could say something to everyone on the planet and they would deeply hear you in this moment, what would it be?
Mm. Soften, 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 soften. They don't hate you. You don't hate them. Soften and breathe. That's all I want to say.
So good. So good.
Mm.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
You know? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
I feel you
yeah.
there. Totally. Totally.
Mm,
Absolutely. Yeah. Soften, 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 soften. It's okay. Yeah. Breathe.
mm, yeah.
Yeah. Nice one. So glad we had a chat.
Me too, Jay. That was amazing. Thank you for
That was,
having me.
yeah. Thanks for stopping by. That was super fun. Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome. Is there anything you want to
so
share
good.
before we actually wrap up? And I won't ask you anything more so we don't go on a 20-minute tangent
We
around the
could sit
world.
here all day probably.
Solve the world's problems.
Solve the world's problems. I'm good. I feel like we shared a lot and I feel nourished from our conversation. I want to thank you so much for having me on. You're such a lovely soul. It
Thank
was
you.
a treat to speak to you. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank
Thanks,
you.
Vanessa. And
Mm.
I know you've got workshops and events and things coming up, so I'll put your details in the description if that's okay with you. If you want to know more about Vanessa and the work that she's doing, then all her details will be in the description. Highly recommend checking out her YouTube channel. Lots of cool content there, and I'm sure lots more to come as she spoke on today. And just lovely to have you on board on the show today, Miss Vanessa.
Thank you.
And that is it for us. So lots of love, people. Stay bright and let's change this planet.